Thank you, Ray Allen, Christy Simone, and yourself here at Wake Up Tucson. 10:30 KVOI The Voice, local news and talk. It's the last day of August, so that what that means tomorrow, right? It's going to cool down. It's going to be fall. It's all going to September 1. It's going to be beautiful. So if you missed any part of the show, we had Dan Bryce Farms on from St. David, Arizona. This guy's like a chili pepper. He's a hardworking farmer who's like he's like a scientist at the same time, man. So if there's a roadie you want to do this weekend, I think Dan Bryce Farms out in St. David would be the place to go. And maybe not during this hour, maybe tomorrow. You guys got to give me places to eat out there. We need a little strategery. Dan's like, I'm working on the farm. I can't tell you crap. So that's okay. I appreciate that. So Ed's on vacation. He's sending me pictures of him with beautiful things behind him and his Corona premiere with his, Wake Up Tucson koozie, keeping it nice and cold.
Have you guys ever done the places to eat in Bisbee?
Not in a while, but that might be part of. Maybe we'll do that for the show tomorrow. We'll do anything between Benson and Bisbee tomorrow. So, and I got Gary from Bisbee who listens to the show all the time, so hopefully he can give us a little love there too. So that'll be part of tomorrow's show on Wake Up Tucson. Good morning to what's your official title over there? Your president, CEO? President and CEO, Ted Maxwell of Southern Arizona Leadership Council. Welcome back, sir.
Good morning, Chris. It's good to be back in studio. I actually am feeling a little, I'll say naked because I don't have my cell phone. So I had to go in and beep in the back, and Ray's going, didn't you read our procedures? I'm going, yeah, I know. But when you leave your cell phone halfway from Oro Valley and figure it out, and you go, well, I can turn around and do this by phone, which I don't like because most of the time when you correct everything I've said is when our conversations in between,
we
when
correct
we're on the
each
air.
other.
So it's good. It's good to be here. You've got it nice and safely set up, and
it's good to have you in studio again because you and I always malign the phone one only. It's just not the same.
It's not. There's no doubt about it. You can't have as good of conversations, and it's good. It is good to be back here. I'm going to miss Ed, but I guess he's got the Corona up in
different Corona.
Sedona.
Thank you very. The Corona in Sedona. I think there's an Andy Hershey song there someplace. So welcome back. We're in the middle of election season,
and it's only going to get crazier. I was listening on the way on, and you're right. If people think we've been inundated with mail flyers, and just start looking at all the ads that hit when you're on the internet or on your Facebook or wherever you want to go, we're going to be inundated in the next
I was playing
months.
something on YouTube, and it showed me a commercial for like Chips Ahoy's cookies or something like that, and I said, oh, thank Jesus it's not a political one. Show me another cookie one, for God's sakes. That's how bad it is right now in August. I'm non-political. I'm all excited about.
Enjoy it while you can,
because that's someone's going to buy out the time from Chips Ahoy with one of these things. But propositions, you and I have talked about it for years. The proposition system in relation to making policy in Arizona is not great.
It's terrible. You combine the citizens initiative process and the ability to create laws with the Voter Protection Act, and once you've got something, it's done. Everybody criticizes the Arizona Chamber because they come out quite often almost against any citizens initiative. It's just because of that reason. You can't change it. And this year it looked like we were going to have a ton of them in a ballot year that nobody would really probably know that much about them because they're going to be flooded with the federal and the presidential and everything else. And now you're going to get down ballot, and either you're not going to be interested or you're going to be voting on stuff that you're going to get to read about 150 words and have to make a decision. So it is important that shows like yours and others start getting some of the words about what is really involved in these propositions.
And these, when he talks about the Voter Protection Act combined with this, it's the idea that the only way you can reverse any of these things is to go back to a proposition.
Correct.
And there's no sunset clauses on any of these things. Or usually.
That's an additional problem to it as well. Yeah, that's something we've always tried to get them to build into it, but why would they want to? They're putting a lot of money forward to get what they think's the right law. Why would they want it to sunset? But that's for another show when we figure out how we can fix the citizens initiative problem. The problem right now is we've got some bills on there. Some are bad. The courts got very, very involved, and a couple of the worst of those didn't make it to the bill, or at least one of the worst of those didn't make it to the ballot. But you've got to get smart. You've got to read what's in there because they're all different. And the marijuana bill that's on there this year is not the marijuana bill that was on 4 years ago.
What's the difference between this bill and the one from 4 years ago?
The biggest difference, there's probably not a lot of difference in what is authorized as far as being an adult in marijuana usage in the record. What they've fixed is the problems that in 2016 SLC was opposed to this, and we didn't give an opinion on whether we thought adults could use marijuana or not. But we definitely said that this bill is bad. It's bad for business. It's bad for law. It's bad for law enforcement. It had a whole bunch of things in it that basically took the ruling out of business owners' hands, out of corporation hands, and out of the legal system. It corrected everything they didn't like that they didn't put in when they passed it in Colorado.
Right.
And I say they, I mean the industry. They heard loud and clear. It got beat. We were the only state out of 5 that faced it in 2016 that said no. And they fixed probably the majority of the business concerns. They've put in here that as a business owner, you can declare your workplace drug-free, and you can test, and THC is allowed in here to be an indicator that somebody's used marijuana. So even though they've said that it's legal in the state, as a business owner, you have the rights to enforce a drug-free workplace.
So, of course, the other part of that is that you're increasing the cost for the business owner, who has to now be more vigilant than ever, whether or not your employee is showing up stoned.
Absolutely. You still have to be aware. It's still you're the one that's responsible for it, and it increases the likelihood that will happen. There's no doubt about it.
Can you fire somebody if they're using marijuana?
Yes, you can. If you just have to be very clear about the ruling. Your employees have to know that despite the fact that if this passes, despite the fact that it's legal in Arizona, your workplace still prohibits drug use.
Well, I assume also on your workman's comp or your other liability insurances that if this passes, I assume that might increase that? That
they will. I mean, all that you hear it a lot from the insurance industry. It's the prices will go up.
Right.
There's increased risk. The previous proposition basically said you couldn't do anything until your employee had done something that was negligent, which means so until somebody can sue me, I can't even ask. That has been removed, as well as they talk about the slightest degree of impairment and presence of and THC in the blood can be also used now as an indication of marijuana use and intoxication, which the last one didn't have that either. So on that front, it's beneficial to law enforcement.
What's the proposition number? Did they get a number yet?
They did. They've all got them. The Smart and Safe Arizona Act, as it's being called, is Proposition 207.
Say that title one more time.
Smart and Safe Arizona.
For marijuana.
Correct.
That's beautiful. All right, we're going to go to break. We're going to come back. You have a question or comment about any of these things for Ted Maxwell or myself, 790-2040 is the phone number. Wake Up Tucson comments at gmail.com. Prop 205, safe in whatever Arizona. Yikes. Wake Up Tucson, 10:30 The Voice. All right. Roger Dean's birthday, who does really cool covers for Yes in Asia. That's what we're doing today. Ed, I was about to say Ed. Been saying it for so long. Ray, thanks for indulging me. I appreciate it. So we're hanging out with Ted Maxwell. He's the president, CEO, and now the guy who takes out the garbage, I hear, because of the Rona, over at the offices of Southern Arizona Leadership Council. Thank you for coming back, sir.
No, always good to be here.
So we're talking about Prop 207, Safe, Smarter Arizona by smoking more dope. Ted, we were talking a little bit off the air. Tell me about groups so far that have come out against this that you know of.
Well, the big things, as you'd expect for a lot of the groups that have come out against it, there are some law enforcement organizations. There's the Center for Arizona Policy.
Right, Kathy Herring's group.
Has come out. Governor Ducey's come out a bit against it. There's quite a few of the state legislators have all come out against it. The Arizona Chamber, I know, is against it as well. A lot of business organizations are just now in a position where they're starting to discuss these ballot initiatives and take our position for a lot of reasons. One, people are looking for funding to fund these campaigns, so we're really getting there. And like I said, SALC is not taking a position on this one yet. When we did in 2016, a ton of our concerns were about the impact on business. And as you mentioned, as you go, there's still going to be a huge impact on business just because the increased cost of you're going to have to provide testing if you think you've got people with problems. Workman's comp prices will invariably probably be going up as well, and there's other factors in that point.
Well, my thing is an argument against this thing is that if we know business levels are still going to be definitely uneven coming out of the corona thing, why would we want to burden businesses with even more costs that they don't have to do with right now?
Yeah, the question always remains on this is enforcement for what they would classify as minor marijuana usage worth the cost? Is that, are we wasting more money doing that, or are we doing what's right? And as we mentioned, I think this is remains a very difficult issue because the federal government still says it's illegal.
Let me put on my Pollyanna hat. Hold on, I'll take my Pollyanna hat on. You know what's great is the money that Pima County won't spend on prosecuting low-level marijuana. I know they're going to put into roads and parks.
Well, it's funny. It's funny. It's funny you mentioned roads and
parks. I got my
parks.
other hat on now.
Some of the things I think is important. It's obviously the biggest issue here is what can you do if you're over 21? You can legally go in. So what you can really buy right now in the not-for-profit medical marijuana facilities would be legal for you to buy, essentially in the for-profit adult recreation facilities, which, by the way, can be housed in the same facility under this bill as well. So that's the big issue. But with all good things on a campaign, they're going to try to make it look even a little sweeter. One of the things they do, there's almost $45,000 or $45 million that are given to the Arizona Teachers Academy, to the government to set up a program commission to help with treatment for folks and youth that get involved in marijuana, because there is one of the arguments against this is that if you legalize something, how can you tell the kids who are doing it illegally that it's unsafe? You then really...
So not the other way, which would be we acknowledge this might be a gateway drug towards heroin and harder stuff, so we'll throw some money towards some programs to make it look like we care.
That's absolutely one of the arguments against it. Now, 16.5% excise tax will be added to the sales,
okay,
and that will establish what they believe the predictions, or the JBLC predictions even, is about $300 million a year roughly coming in to support the things that are funded by this campaign. So it's essentially kind of a sin tax, much
Sure.
like the cigarettes were for education years ago. Now it's gone here too, and they're going to establish the Arizona, or the Smart and Safe Arizona Fund, and so the $300 million, just so you know where it goes, because I think it's that kind of, this is going to catch your attention.
Hold me and comfort me, Ted, with this next one.
But the fund itself, now of course I had that page all lined up. Now I'm missing it.
That's okay.
All right,
You're one of our most organized guests.
Yeah,
So
the fund, 33% of it will go to the community colleges.
Okay.
So if you're taking $300 million, you get about $100 million, and they've 15% of that goes between to the colleges, supposed to fund JTED, technological training, and workforce development. So
they are sweetening it.
They are. 31% goes to municipal police departments, municipal fire and fire districts. So that's, again, about another $100 million to that.
Okay.
25%, so about $75 million, will go to the Arizona Highway Users Revenue Fund.
Oh, look at that.
It goes to HERF. So that's where I thought you'd like that, because you talked about the roads, and so it is going there. And then there's another 10% that goes to Justice Reinvestment and Establishment. And
hold on. Do you say Justice Reinvestment?
What
does that mean?
10% to the Justice Reinvestment Fund established by Section 362863. So if we get into the Arizona statutes, we both can understand that one better. But they build these in, and a lot of times, we were talking off air, in Washington and a couple of the early states that passed the legalization of marijuana, the numbers came nowhere close to what the revenue they said would be generated. Colorado is the one state that it has. It's met the revenue generation numbers. So we don't know exactly how much will come out.
So these
of this
other states, Ted, what do you think? How much did they fall short, do you think, that you've heard?
They were close to over 50% short.
Gotcha.
On their numbers.
Okay.
So what people have to remember is this fund, the excise tax, the first thing it's going to do is going to pay the cost of administering the programs. And that's cost for the state government, because the state government's obviously going to be impacted. They've got to establish a new board and commission to oversee and watch it, and so you never know exactly how much you're going to get. But I think they're probably better. I think we're probably going to see close to $300 million out of it, and they're telling you. I mean, that's one of the campaign aspects. You think about it: workforce development, education, police and fire, public safety, and roads. Those are the three big issues. Everybody says we don't spend enough, and it goes back to what we did say earlier: is managing laws through citizens' initiatives, not only the laws we have to follow, but also for what we're going to do with the money, is not the way our government's supposed to work. We need to get back to legislators legislating.
Well, of course, we know by giving these people more money, then they're going to do the right job, right? That's as Gary Davidson will say when it comes to roads, what, this many billions not enough? Right? And of course it is. That's the problem.
And then you've done this all along, and we've talked about it as well, is that's where organizations like ours and citizens like you need to demand that the money that's put into those funds goes to where it's supposed to go. And it's the challenge. But for this bill, they've really we talked about the Voter Protection Act, and one of the really unique things about this one is at the end of it, and I know we're probably coming up on break, they actually put in here and outline specifically what the legislatures can change.
Interesting. Well, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick call, then we're going to go to Bottom of the Hour News. Let's get Bill number 2 on. Bill, you're on with Ted Maxwell. What's up, buddy?
Good morning, guys. Hey, this kind of reminds me of the old, it's immoral, it's illegal, it's wrong, unless some government agency gets a cut of the action, and then it's okay.
Right.
I mean, that's really what it sounds like. I mean, they're out there with this fund going to literally, what I would call it, bribe the group of people to.
Well, aren't all sin taxes bribes in the end?
Well, probably, but that's just, we just keep going down this rabbit hole where, okay, we're going to do marijuana, and we know there's going to be problems, so we're going to try to fix those problems. Well, the easiest way to fix them is don't start them in the first place. But that's just my opinion. See you guys.
Thank you, Billy.
And Bill brings up a great point where almost all these citizens initiatives, at least the ones we're talking about today, could have been prevented from being in these language and these forms and going to the voters if we had done something at the state legislature. One way or the other. And when we talk about the education one, that's a big impact.
Legislators abdicating responsibility. That's another thing I've never heard of. I mean, this is the Christy Simone and Shock Hour with Ted Maxwell. We're going to get into the education one coming up when we come back. Christy Simone, Ed Alexander's here spiritually. Ray Allen and Ted Maxwell. Wake up. All right, welcome back to the Wake Up Tucson show. Christy Simone and Ed Alexander. I keep saying... I'm so used to him.
Hey, Ray, I know you're there. I'm glad.
I'm glad you see me there, Ted. Jeez.
Some dude named Ray's on the other side of the glass. Jesus. We're hanging out with Ted Maxwell, Southern Arizona Leadership Council. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
We're trying to educate everyone on these different propositions, and this is something, Ray, that you should definitely put this discussion on elections 2020 also.
Yeah, we can. We'll do.
Yeah, thank you.
And Chris, you just said that's a great point. That as hard as they can be to read, if you've really got any questions about these, I'd advise just reading the statute.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about 17 pages, and that's the other problem. These citizens initiatives, they're all 17, 24, 30. It's hard to summarize in 100 words, thus why the Supreme Court got involved so many times this year. And it's hard to summarize in a single flyer.
That's why I've always wanted to have a proposition on propositions, right? And the proposition would be no more than 1 page and no more than 3 ever in one election year on a ballot.
Well, I do believe, especially because of what happened this year, we're over half of we thought we were going to get 4 more propositions down ballot, and we've only got 2. We're also going to have one.
Imagine having 6, dude, in this election.
It would have been crazy. But because all the things that resulted in either these getting on or off, I don't think they were consistent, and they were confusing because we need to simplify our Citizens Initiative process, and we need to take some of the Voter Protection Act things and unwind them. I personally, the one I'd add for Citizens Initiative is after every 5 years, the legislature gets to review it. If they think it's not accomplishing what's intended or it's bad for the state, it gets referred back to the ballot. So now you don't have to spend money trying to pay to get something, to take something off that's doing harm for our state.
Notice Chris is going to start off this next sentence with the word when. When the legislature turns Democrat, that will never happen. They will never limit an initiative ever again.
I think you'd be surprised how many people on both sides of the aisle that want to do it. It's just others on the far side, kind of like what we've talked
less
about.
Less popular on the D side than the R side to limit propositions, I would say, though, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, but another good conversation. You can get some folks, though, but from both sides who will agree there are things like the Voter Protection Act and the Citizens Initiative process. If you change them both together, people are going to have to give up a little bit on each side. But that would be called compromise. And I know sometimes compromise is a bad word, but in this case, it would be better for Arizona if we could simplify the process.
Amen, Brother Ted. Now let's talk about the education one. So it's been on the ballot, off the ballot. I thought like 5 weeks ago it was off, then it's back on. You hear just the little cover of how people describe it. It's a funding for education, but we're only going after rich people. What's the prop number? Give me the overview.
So it's Prop 208. It's well known as the Invest in Education Act. It was tried 2 years ago. And it was thrown off the ballot back then for the 100-word summary not being sufficient to explain to the voter what was going on. Essentially, hardly changed. They changed how they called it. Instead of raising the tax, they're adding a surcharge now, a 3.5% surcharge, which is a 77% tax increase to anyone who makes over $250,000 as an individual or $500,000 as a couple. However, that includes LLCs and S corps, any business that is deemed a pass-through type business. Those business profits will also get taxed now at that higher 8% rate if they make over those dollar rides. So it's a 3.5% increase. That's rate increase that results in a 77% increase.
So what we're saying is okay. As you know, I'm a small business guy like you are, right?
Correct.
So the assault on small businesses has been amazing, right? Just first of all, surviving through Rona and lockdowns, right? That has been horrendous on these humans. The marijuana thing, if that happens, that's an assault on small businesses if it increases their costs, right? Now you're saying that if this is on pass-through LLCs of $250,000 or more, that's like most small businesses out there.
And that's the challenge, and you're not going to hear a lot about that. You're not going to hear because it's not a business tax. If they say it's not a business tax, you're right, but it's very difficult to explain how an LLC works to most folks. And what they miss is I've even heard one person say, well, if the business is making that kind of money, they can afford to pay it. Well, no, because then they're not going to invest back in their companies.
Right.
That money that shows as a pass through there, they make the decisions to whether they're going to put that money maybe in some savings or in their own personal savings, or if they're going to put it in their company. And more than likely, business owners want to grow business, and they want to invest. But if you're every time they have a good year, you're taking more of their money away, it's less incentivizing. And worst case for us is this will run our top tax rate in the state of Arizona at 8%. And where's our growth coming from? Companies that are leaving states like California because of their tax policy. And now we're going to be competing with Utah, Nevada, New Mexico, Colorado, who all have lower top income tax levels and get an impact. So it's going to hurt business. It's going to hurt job creation. And fundamentally, SALC, as you can probably already tell, we're opposed to Prop 208, Invest in Ed. We were opposed to it in 2018. We're opposed to it now because we think it is supposed to be a public good, which if you're going to fund a public good, it should be a little more fair than put it on the backs of the business entities. And the fact of the matter is it's covering K-12 salaries. 75% of this will go to K-12 salaries. It doesn't address preschool education. And SALC is a huge early childhood education. We're huge supporters of K-12. We're a huge supporter of the community college, workforce development, JTED, and the universities. We have a funding problem in Arizona when it comes to education, and that's another show. But we've always said
I'm going to book you for 2 hours for that.
We can take that one. but we have said we need to put significant money and change this system. And again, when the legislature was faced with even something that was reasonable, Senator Sylvia Allen proposed increasing from 0.6 to a cent the sales tax for education, and couldn't even get her own bill heard. And she is far from a moderate representative, and we were just talking about that.
Sure.
So the legislature could have prevented this, and the business community, honestly, could have prevented this. We've let the perfect get in the way of the good.
We've never done that before.
In coming up with a education system and funding that will work. But what I'll tell you about this one is it's just flat out bad in that respect. It's not giving the local control, not getting the money to the right places. And the taxing process, only way to say it, it's not fair.
If you're a business organization and you're not against this one, you got a problem, because this isn't like the big corporate. This is an assault on your mom. This is an assault on the mom and pop. What this is.
And I think when you see the ballot pamphlets and you see the others, you're going to see the SALC, you're going to see the Greater Phoenix Chamber of Commerce, you're going to see Arizona Chamber of Commerce. The business organizations are going to rally behind this one because of that. But
are they going to spend any dough to do anything about it? I don't know.
That's the good question, and that's part of it.
Because if I assume Glenn and the crew will spend some money on, and Catherine Harrod on marijuana. But I don't know if they'll.
Yeah, there's going to be a plan. I'm sure there's. You've heard some of the talking points already. The 77% tax increase, is that fair? No matter who it's on, that you're doubling it. It's polling fairly well, because kind of like we talked about off there, the marijuana's polling fairly well. I think they've both got a good chance of passing, but I don't think they're going to be. For sure on the education one, I don't think it's going to be beneficial for Arizona. So I'm not sure. We're not going to. I don't believe it will solve the education problems. It's going to make going back to the well to get more money for education very difficult, and there are a lot of other places we need to put this money.
All right, Ted, Maxwell, Christy, Simone, and you. We got one more segment. Zach's coming up at the top of the hour. Who's filling in for Billy at noon, Ray?
It's going to be Dan today.
Thank God. Love Dan Shearer. Check him out at 12 noon. We have Buckmaster is chilling out up in the Pacific Northwest. He just messaged me. He just woke up, dude. He's having a late morning. God bless him.
Oh, must be rough.
Tomorrow we have 3 guests. We have Anthony Sizer, who is running Pima County Supervisor District 2. Oro Valley Police Chief Cara Riley will be here. And then we have Radio Hall of Famer Jim Sloan will be here. And Jim's here. He's going to talk about his friend Lute Olson. He's got a lot of loot stories he's going to tell. So that'll be a rip in the second hour. Wake up. All right. Welcome back to the Wake Up Tucson show. Hanging out with Ted Maxwell, Southern Arizona Leadership Council. We love having him on and doing these deep dives on these propositions. I think a lot of you, I'm already seeing by some of the reaction I'm getting, are like, oh, I didn't know that was there. I didn't know that was there.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that, because sometimes doing deep dives on these things to cover them in our quick segments is tough. So I'm glad, as long as people are aware of something out there. There's also one I want to mention, Proposition 481 is going to be on the ballot as well. This is the increase for Pima Community College's expenditure limitation. It is not a tax increase. So when you see...
Say it one more time from the beginning.
So currently, by a voter initiative in 1979, there's expenditure limitations that are established for all of our community colleges.
Right.
How much you can spend basically per pupil in the classroom.
Right.
Ours is at the lowest in the state, because we're using 79 numbers, 80 numbers. They haven't been adjusted since. It's been that's how you calculate the thing. So the Pima Community College Board of Governors has decided to put on the ballot this year the question to the citizens: can we increase by $11.5 million the expenditure limit? They're allowed to spend the money that they receive by the tax that goes out there, but they're limited on how they can spend it. And it's right now limited to predominantly hardcore infrastructure, which is not what they need in this technological age 40 years later, and how you train students.
That was my question I was going to ask you, is if they haven't been allowed to spend it on students. Where's it been going?
If it goes anywhere, it goes to infrastructure.
Now, when it says it goes to students, what does that mean?
No, it's so like some of the examples of things that they believe this will allow them to do over the next years is they'll be able to double their capacity at their aviation tech center.
Good.
And every single one of those kids walks out with job offers. It's we
know the airline industry is hot and has a future.
But
it'll come back.
They'll need mechanics.
I know. I agree.
There'll be plenty of federal government money that will make sure that industry survives.
Yes.
Construction, they're going to expand. They could expand their HVAC program. Hospitality, increased internships and partnerships with local businesses, which will increase opportunity for the students to get hired. Expand the capacity of their automotive technology. Change some of it to catch up technology with both online and virtual training that they currently can't put money in. One of the ones I know Chancellor Lambert's talked about is the idea of having some basically virtual cadavers. So instead of having to use real cadavers, you can get a virtual cadaver. It increases the flexibility in the amount that the students can train and get their education built. It puts money into the students, into the workforce development, into the technologies, and not into, we don't need brick and mortar right now. This education system is going to be less and less brick and mortars. We were just talking about off the air.
If Ed Alexander was here and he had the rim shot sound drop, I don't know, do you have the rim shot? Do you have it there? I know it's on that screen. Tell me when it's ready, because this is a perfect time for a rim shot. All right, tell me when you're ready. Oh, damn it, because I was going to say virtual cadaver. You mean the guy running against Trump? Okay, sorry. Sorry. Let's go to the phone. 790-2040 is the phone number. Let's go to Robert on line 2. Robert, you're on with Chris and Ted Maxwell. What's up?
Hey, Chris and Ted. If I'm understanding you and they vote in legalized marijuana, are marijuana shops going to pop up all over the place like urgent care centers have, or will it be restricted to be handled through the currently permitted dispensaries?
So that's Robert. That's a great question, and it's twofold. One of the problems we had as an organization with the last time, it was literally a monopoly builder. If you weren't already in the dispensary, the medical marijuana industry, your chance of getting a business license was zero. They've loosened that up. They've changed it so that now there can be no more dispensaries than one for every 10 pharmacies that are registered in the state. So they're using kind of a technique to limit the number of dispensaries you can have. And that's going to have to do with the pharmacies. It's still going to be a lot, but it's going to about double the number of business licenses that you have right now for the current non-medical marijuana, as I understand it. Here's something that is different to know. Localities can prohibit businesses from being in existence. What they can't do is they can't make the laws or requirements any greater than they currently have in local rules and statutes than they currently have in place for the medical marijuana one. So if they want to increase their setbacks from schools, if they want, but they put language in this one that gives the localities, the local municipal governments, and the counties in areas of the county that aren't in a municipality, so the unincorporated areas, the counties can also do that, but they do have opportunities to restrict or limit or prohibit. But it won't be everywhere. My understanding is the total number will increase by about double. The thing that you will see is a lot of those will be taken, because they can be early applicants, will be taken by current medical marijuana providers, because it will allow them to have both the medical marijuana and the recreational marijuana in the same store.
Oh, man, the rich just get richer. So as I understand it, I lost my train of thought here.
Well, that's okay.
Oh, this is a completely cash business, and it will continue to be. Are they going to allow them to bank it? Because there must be storage units full of cash somewhere around town if they can't bank it.
Well,
and if they can't bank it, they can't be audited.
That's one of the biggest concerns, I'd say, as a citizen I have with it, is we've got a federal government that's still it's still illegal. But here, throughout different states throughout the country, I think it's something the feds eventually have to either take on, because that banking issue, a cash business, creates a lot of issues, problems, as well as accountability.
Robert, thanks for the good call. Sorry, real quick. Just go real quick.
In terms of the current accounting, what do they do? Take their words on their revenues? Because a normal retail audit would include register tapes, what they started with at the beginning of the month, what they left with at the end of the month, and they have to match out.
You're not going to go along with Scout's honor for the marijuana business on our accounting procedures?
Chris, I forget. I wish you could remember.
Robert, have a great day. Thanks for the good call.
Thanks.
So to me, Robert just brought up two great points. If you're the anti-marijuana people, what that commercial looks like, right? I would start popping up. Would you like more marijuana places popping up in your neighborhood and go boop, 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 and always have some great name, like Not So Purple Haze or whatever you want, or Dazed and Confused? I'd be putting that up. And then the other thing is, if it really is such a cash business, right? And there is so we talk about that. So maybe you told me that Washington and some of these states only hit their numbers by 50%. I wonder if that is, one, the demand wasn't as high, and two, they couldn't count as much dough to tax as possible.
The early states definitely had a problem. It's problematic, as we talked about, and it's gonna. One thing you can guarantee is you will see those advertisements for all these different initiatives, and I just ask everybody, read about them, get smart, talk to people that know, and
any school bonds coming up or anything that I should know? Anything in that world that's
I can't tell you right off the top.
You weren't prepared for that one.
No,
that's okay.
We'll
see.
I'll be there on the next one. There are some important elections, and that's something else. There's some nonpartisan elections. TUSD School Board has 3 vacant seats.
Yep.
So if people want to get higher quality folks on that board, they need to take a look at it and make it happen. And even PCC District 1 is going to have a race out there as well.
That's true. On TUSD, Nick Pearson, I think, is a good choice. He'll be a reasonable voice on that board. So there's not much reason at TUSD. So he'll be like a font of reason. All right, Ted Maxwell, thanks for your service as always, sir.
Absolutely. Anytime, Chris.
Totally appreciate it. Ray, we had a great ride together, 2 shows.
It's great, man.
Now we're getting rid of you. So
it's all right. I don't mind.
Thank you for your work over the last couple of days. Ed will be back tomorrow. Really looking forward to. We have Anthony Sizer. He's running for Pima County Board of Soups. But at the same time, Jim Sloan, he is a country music radio Hall of Famer, will be here.